This is year one of a trial of organic cotton in the Mid-South. Put another way, I characterize this growing cotton east of I-35. You're familiar with I-35, goes to Minneapolis down through Texas. On the west side of that is arid. That's where most of the organic cotton is grown in the world, in the U.S. Globally, organic cotton is less than 0.5%. There's a real demand for organic cotton. People are willing to pay premiums for organic cotton. Are those premiums big enough? Probably not. But going back to the supply issue, there is a demand for organic cotton. So what I'm trying to do is find a way, with the help of Bruce and John and his team here, to make organic production work for the Southeast, Southeast, Mid-South. So this is year one. This area right here is already certified organic production, so I don't have any issues of getting it certified. We planted this somewhat late, and I've got this in two plots here also. Notice this first half of the field, really wide rows. The concept there is cotton does have an ability to compensate with space. One plant, if it doesn't have another close by it gets larger. So the notion there is if I can have wide spacing. Why do I want wide spacing for organic? Because it cuts down on labor. I have less feet of row to fight weeds. I can fight the weeds in the middle with machines, with tillers and so on, but in the row it takes hand labor. So you see this spot of weeds right there? That's what this entire field looked like. Now, one of the things I'm doing is collecting data. My cost of labor per acre on this side of the field is roughly $450 an acre. That's what the investment so far. That side of the field is half that. So you see where I'm going with that. Cost a major issue. So if I can find a way to reduce the labor, that's important. Insects is a really serious problem with organic cotton in this part of the world. The good news is here, I have not had an insect problem here. I told Margaret that I didn't have an insect problem because they couldn't find it for the pigweed. But the good news is but can I project that good fortune in the future? Probably not. So I'm doing this for several reasons. One, to help increase the supply. Also to help get information for farmers, if they decided to do it, to be informed, to know what the risks are, to know what the opportunities are. There's a real need for good organic insecticides. We have some for worms like BT, but do we have any good organic insecticides for plant bug? Not to my knowledge. There might be some, but I don't know of any. Another is finding a way to grow organic cotton in the presence of weeds and grass. What we're doing right now is not sustainable. Trust me, this is not sustainable. That's one reason you don't see very much organic cotton in the Mid-South. But when we can break this conundrum of weeds, insects, grass, when we can break that and begin to grow this without the chemicals, with mechanical, with robotics, with heavy mulch, some way to make that work, that's the reason I'm saying this is just year one. I will publish this, but you know what? I will likely not harvest this for this reason. Timing is really important. We planted this at the end of June in a year where it's been cloudy most year, hadn't collected a lot of sunlight, a lot of heat units. Plus, it was shaded, seriously, this was shaded from 4 or 5 weeks old to now because the weeds were outgrowing the cotton. That's another conundrum. Now, if I was doing this commercially, I would have plowed it up a long time ago. but I'm not doing it commercial. I'm doing it to collect the data to learn. It's a tremendous learning experience. What our plans here now is chances are when it's time to harvest, we'll evaluate this. If we have some open bowls, we'll harvest it. But if we don't have significant open bowls, we'll go ahead and disc it. And this year, what I plan to do, and I don't know, Keith, if you might do it also, I plan to come in here with a bottom plow. Those of you who connect to regenerative agriculture, bottom plow is the last thing you ever want to do. But you know what? I've got such a crisis here with a weed bank of weed seed here. I know it'd be a disaster next year. So the notion is I come, turn this upside down, put these seeds down, and start over again next year after we plant a good cover crop. This year, with approval of the team, John's team, Bruce's team, most likely we'll come in here with black oats, with radish, and with a legume such as vetch. Really have a good biomass and plant it. We'll roller crimp it next year. We can't burn it down with anything to kill the plant. So we got to plant in green. So that's going to be another challenge, but this is something we've got to learn how to do. So from an environmental standpoint, the chemical fertilization right here, I put 30 units of nitrogen with a form of poultry. It's a, how do you say, processed poultry manure. Actually, the color looks good. It looks like nutrient-wise, it looks like it's great. So I've saved a ton of money on fertilizer, I hope. Insecticide, no chemicals applied for it. So I'm saving a ton of money. If I could get a yield, I'd be okay. Next year we'll get a yield. Keith, tell us about your corn.
Okay, my name is Keith White. I farm in Tennessee and Mississippi, and I got involved with Pete and Ag Lunch in an organic project trying to change the soil to organic. But I'm gonna tell you, if y'all think this look bad, mine look really 3 times worse than this. One thing I learned is if you can't use herbicide and you're trying to do things the healthy ways, which what everybody is kind of real cautious these days. When you go to the grocery stores, or everybody's concerned about organic, they want everything organic. But I don't know if they believe everything that the grocery store tells them, but if you think about organic fruit or vegetables, they don't last very long. You better eat them fast or they'll go bad. And they're really expensive. So the corn deal, I thought was a really good idea, but at the same time, it was a great idea. It was like, hey, I said, I got this, no problem, I can do it. And I tell you, Mother Nature didn't allow me to do it. But we couldn't use nitrogen. We had to use organic fertilizer, and we used chicken litter, which works really well. But if you get a bunch of rain, organic matter like chicken litter, the weeds is going to eat it up faster than the actual corn did. And so before I knew it, I had way more weeds than I had corn. And the weather changed. It went from raining we got a lot of rain in May and June. I'm talking it probably every 2 or 3 days we were getting heavy rains. And so what happened was, by the time we hit the second shot of chicken litter, we got about 20 inches of rain, I think. And you can tell where the fertilizer the low spots, we got a bunch of corn cobs, and you go right maybe 10 yards later where the ground rolls, there are no corn cobs, and you got more weeds. You can actually tell that it had potential, but using a chopping crew worked for about maybe a day. And after then, it looked just like what you see in the back right there. That's you can see corn, but you can't see. You can only see it in maybe the low spots where you can tell where water sat when it rains so much. So going organic in this part of the country is not going to be easy. This looks incredible right here compared to what I've seen on my field. Like, but how many people? How long did it take to clean this up like that?
Well, let's just say I've got about $500 an acre in this area.
Well, to a row crop farmer, that's very expensive. If y'all don't know, but at the same time, if you can get these things to work and get the soil healthy enough where you don't have to use chemicals, there's a big upside, because everybody thinks I'm crazy right now. I get a phone call probably every other week from a farmer that drive past my field because it's right on the main road. And they said, "What are you doing down there?" I'm like, "Oh man, I'm growing some organic corn." It's like, looks like you're growing weeds. And that's what it looks like, you know. But it's a story behind it. But what I'm gonna take from this this experience is, remember the beginning, because if you see the back right there, and if we come back to this field in 2 or 3 years and you don't see any of that, apparently we're going somewhere. So if we get to that point, then that means we shoot for, like on corn and soybeans, non-GMOs and organics, the premiums are really good. So if you can get to that point, you can probably make up, maybe one good year will make up for all the 5 years that you put into it to get it to that point. And once you get it going, there ain't really no turning back if you stay on top of it.
Keith, you made a great point, and I'd like to reinforce it. See this little area right here from Pete's truck over to right about here? Pretty clean. It's been that way practically all year. We had to do a little hand hoeing, more Rogan than anything else. So I started going back, looking at the history of this area right here. Last year, Steve had some hemp planted in here. And I asked Steve, "What did you do?" He said, "Well, I kept the weeds out of it." So every week he tilled. When the weeds were coming up, he kept the weeds out. So this area right here did not have a tremendous seed bank. So that's informing me to see if I can replicate this for the entire field next year by starting off this year by putting those pigweed seeds and grass seeds, I started to say 6 foot under, 6 inches under with a bottom plow. And then, to Keith's point, keep it this way perpetually. But we've got to do something different than we've done in the past. Sorry, I just wanted to use that for the teaching moment.
To give a sense of this, if you don't know acres, what is this, like 2.5? 3?
Actually, from this corner up to that's 5 acres. Now, part of that's been bush hogged in there because I finally had to give up on some weeds.
Yeah.
So that's 5 acres, this field right here.
Multiply that times 8 is what Keith's having to deal with a lot of public visibility. There's a road here, but not right on it like you got. So what are you going to do? What's the plan going forward, going into the October?
Well, we're gonna mow it down, and we're gonna possibly bottom plow or chisel plowing, and like Doctor said, we want to bury the seed bank, because coming into the spring, if you could just get a head start in this part of the country, you can just 1st April, soybeans, corn, if you could just get a head start before the humidity kicks in and the temperature rises, you can actually shade out a bunch of weeds and it won't be as bad, especially with narrow row soybeans. You can really do that. And if you can really get a head jump on them, it's almost like it's like running a 100-yard touchdown on the first kickoff in the football game. You can really save yourself a lot. But if Mother Nature don't allow you to do that, this is what you're gonna run into, what you see in the back right there. And I don't care how many times not to mention, I plowed the middles 45 times. And every time I plowed the middles, we got dumped on and would rain. It seemed like maybe one time, and that was the last time. Wish I could have got rain, but that's when it went from 90-degree weather to almost 100-degree weather, and we probably went 30 to 40 days without a rain.
We were not coordinated this, but the rains came at the same time in South Memphis as it did here, right after I cultivated. This had three cultivations. And again, think about regenerative agriculture. You do not want to plow in your field for regenerative agriculture. Every time I run a cultivator through here, it exposes this soil, the organic matter, it oxidizes, makes greenhouse gases. That's the opposite direction we want to go. So we've got to find a way to grow organic without producing more greenhouse gases, without adding more energy. So these are challenges, and I'll be making these statements to an international conference here. A lot of organic folks there, not to make them all mad, but I said, let's get real. Let's solve the real problems where they see the problem is we need more people to buy organic and pay more money. Let's solve the problem so that they can afford to buy your organic cotton. Right now, organic cotton, you can get a contract for $2.50 a pound. You know what? I'd lose money on that with this field right here. That would not cover my my labor costs. So the point is, let's get real. Let's solve a supply issue for cotton. Organic's got a place, conventional cotton's got a place, regenerative cotton has got a place. Let's solve cotton's problem because polyester is not the solution. And by the way, I am checking labels for everybody who's got a polyester shirt on. You'll probably get a note from me, right, Pete?
I've gotten notes before, that's for sure.
Thanks, guys. I just wanted to ask quickly about, you guys both talked a little bit about poultry litter-based fertilizer. I know Ag Launch is looking at a bunch of like manure to fertilizer kind of companies. Maybe talk a little bit more about like the cost, what would be ideal, I guess, from a fertilizer input standpoint, or like, is it even an issue at all? It's kind of something we're seeing a lot in the like technology early stage companies right now.
Okay, first of all, that's a good question. All right, if I was just getting regular fertilizer, retail wise, if I ordered today, they could have it to me by 3 this afternoon. Unfortunately, with the chicken litter, it don't work that way. I had a contact at Mississippi State. They gave me 3 guys' phone numbers. It took them, a month to call me back? And what's funny was all of them gave me each other's number all over again. Call this guy, call this guy. Okay, finally one of them said, yeah, I got to bring some up to Memphis and blah, 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 so I can drop some off to you as well. But it came all the way from Louisiana, so the freight killed me. That was the main thing. Freight was a killer. And then the chicken litter, the analysis was one thing, but the lab said it was another, so you really don't know what you're getting. But I'm gonna say this, it worked. It just didn't work in my favor. And the cost was very, very expensive. But it didn't work in my favor. And I'm gonna say, dude, that had a lot to do with the weather pattern that we went through this past spring. We just couldn't catch a break. Even when I was putting the corn in the ground, it was wet. And so it popped right up, but by the time the corn popped up, the chicken litter just literally, the grass, all of the seed in the ground, the grass seed and the pig weeds sucked it right up. And before I knew it, I had a bunch of everything you can. I'd never seen that much grass in that field before until this year. You know, I saw pig weeds, but I never saw that much grass. The grass was more of an issue than broadleafs were, and that was totally opposite.
I use an organic farm that reprocessed chicken litter. Came from Italy, for heaven's sake. But it worked, and understand I put 30 pounds here. This is a third of what we typically call for a cotton field. Corn requires a lot more N than cotton, so but I got a really good deal because it was a donation. But I would be counting the value of that donation as we do the budget. There's another issue. I've got some friends in Louisiana, sizable cotton farmers. They love chicken litter, chicken manure. It comes with a cost. It comes with a smell cost. It comes with a buzzard cost, because you buy chicken litter, you can count on it's got more than just chicken litter in it. It also has dead birds. It has a lot of things that's from a smell and aesthetic standpoint. I would be really concerned if I brought in 40 tons of chicken litter right across from the park here, from the Coastal Restaurant. So that's another real practical issue. Your neighbors here, your neighbors might not want you putting out 100 tons of chicken manure.
So so the technologies that would take the raw litter and convert it into more useful fertilizer certainly is an enabling technology for what
That's
we're
right.
doing here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. Anybody else got one? Good job, Ag Launch people. You are curious. Always learning. That's great.
Yes. Hey, Dr. Jordan, while we're on the subject of fertilizer, since you do have 60-inch rows versus 38, did you reduce the amount on the 68-inch rows that you put on your 38s?
I did not reduce the amount. Maybe I should have, but I didn't, for this reason. You budget your nitrogen based on the amount you plan to take off in your crop. Now, if this were done correctly, if I was going to pick a number, 1 bale per acre there and 1 bale per acre here, I need the same amount of nitrogen. You don't just go put a little bit, side dress it, because the cotton over there, it's mining nutrients for, say, 60 inches. Right.